things in there. And then on the industries, right? So you mentioned healthcare, revenue cycle management. Is it is there an industry, like when you look at the market and based on you guys are in a lot of the industries too, is there a particular industry that's further ahead in this, like especially on the traditional side? I'm not talking the internet native companies and stuff, right? But is there a particular industry that you see is further ahead using machine learning and AI to to drive transformation for themselves?
I think when we look at when we look at non-tech native industries,
Hmm.
I actually think consumer retail is getting there, right? And they're getting there because they had to, because they were being disrupted and having their lunch stolen by tech natives. So that's where where I think I've seen kind of meaningful value driving adoption of ML and AI technology in kind of consumer personalization, one-on-one engagement, marketing. You see it in retail, you see it in travel. I think I wouldn't say the capability pervaded the entire business in the way that you would expect to see in one of the big tech names, but definitely it's getting there. I think in areas that I work, finance is somewhere in the middle, and it depends very much on which part of the business that you're in. Right? So, I neglected to mention this earlier, but if you're in the trading side, then they're all over it, right? Like when you've got the right to take risks and you own the results of those risks, you see very enthusiastic adoption. Where it's consumer facing and the regulation is tighter, right? That's where understandably we've seen slower adoption, but it's beginning to get there. I think health is probably one of the slowest, and that probably shouldn't shock us too much, right? So one reason to go slowly is if it's regulated and the decisions are important. One reason to go very slowly is if it's literally life or death, right? You probably don't want to be too experimental with that unless you've got real science and real conviction what you're doing is working. So that's why I think what we're seeing in healthcare is most of the innovation is more on the administrative and regulatory. Well, let me rephrase. I think people are innovating in the care side, but it's early, right? Where things I think are starting to come through is more on automation of clerical work, revenue cycle, all the back office functions that particularly in the US form a huge part of the health industry, mostly invisible. That is historically a very inefficient set of processes that's grown enormously complex over time. And it's ripe for disruption through automation. Not all of that necessarily needs to be AI, but actually there are some applications creeping in which are, and that's interesting to see.
It's interesting. Even like on the back office side is one thing, but even knowledge workers on the front lines, right? As long as here's the thing that we've noticed it like often, right? Everybody tries to come and solve like a big impactful problem up front, get in front, like provide diagnosis for patients or something like that. But if you just take that away and say, look at the cognitive workload of the frontline workers, be it nurses, doctors, or be it care managers and caregivers and case managers in insurance companies, there's a huge opportunity just to augment their workflows by surfacing insight that they would otherwise not do. So the decision, the life or death decision is still left to the individual who have enough context, but you use AI to improve their contextual understanding of the situation, right?